Good morning, everyone. How are you guys? This is Enzo Aita, founder of FunnelTV, and I'm here with Alexandra and Alexander from Atomize. We are going to run this amazing session. It's early in the morning. Actually, this is, I think, the first time I run a early morning webinar. Well, early. It's 10 o'clock, but I'm still here in a coffee stage. So
So am
welcome
I.
and good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Great. We are very excited for this session. It's really exciting times.
Yeah, and before I introduce you guys, let me explain a little bit the mood of this webinar. Uh, I would say it's a kind of non-traditional, non-conventional webinar. We would like to keep this webinar like a conversation. So I see people connecting right now and watching real time the webinar. So you have here on YouTube a space to post your comments, your question during the live show. We really want to have a good question from you guys. Very good interaction. Alexandra will help us to moderate those comments and jump in the conversation if you have any particular question. And we are going to discuss a lot of interesting topics. Let me pull some of them. So mainly, what we are going to announce is the unique functionality of Atomize, which is the real-time pricing that I think is the only RMS on the world in the market.
It's real-time price optimization, which is a very important part of this to understand. But we go through all this, how it works and what it means and everything. But real-time price optimization, which
That's
is
fantastic.
very unique. Yeah,
you're really changing the approach of revenue, man. So it's going to be really exciting. I see there is a lot of opportunity out there, especially with this dynamic, movement of the approach of this pricing. And that's going to be great. Right. So before we start and understand a little bit about you guys, would you like Alexandra to launch your video?
Yes, sure. So we're going to get you in the right mode here to talk about real-time price optimization.
Yeah.
So we're going to start here with a 2-minute short video.
Perfect.
The world as we know it is moving faster, is more dynamic, and the competition is fierce. Operating in a real-time environment requires your software to do the same. Are you keeping up? Do you know if your prices are competitive enough? You don't need to know. Let Atomize handle that for you. Atomize automatically calculates the most optimal room price for you at any time, anywhere. We are on a journey. Do you also want to be part of it?
We used to work with a lot of Excel files when we were doing revenue management. And now with Atomize, I think it almost takes like an hour a day.
We think that this is the way forward. We want to try new technologies. Our revenue has gone up quite substantially, up to 18%. It's a lot more dynamic than the way that we did revenue management in the past. Our rates change literally up to 3 to 4 times a day. So it's very, very fast pacing.
Atomize was one push on the button and everything was going through my PMS system, going through my OTAs, looking at the predictability and the cost efficiency that has, was for me a reason to go for Atomize. If you see how Google grew with algorithms, the only thing is growing with Atomize is the same.
That was cool. Thank you.
Great. Now I'm at least I'm in the right mode now to discuss real-time price optimization. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Right. So Alexander, please introduce yourself. Tell the audience who are you, your background. Talk a little bit about Atomize, when the company was born, and why you are on the market, man.
Yeah. Thanks. So yes, I'm Alexander Edström. I'm the CEO of Atomize.
Why you on the market, man?
Yeah, thanks. So yes, I'm Alexander Edström. There was something happening there, Enzo. Are we on?
No.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's some echo return.
Yeah, there was an echo. But yes, I'm Alex, the CEO of Atomize. Atomize was founded 2016, and we have a heritage before that coming from ad tech industry, where everything was real time. So where every pricing decision that was made was taken in a real time environment. So less than 50 milliseconds per pricing decision. So when we stumbled across sort of the opportunity, or we saw what was happening in the hotel industry, where the current providers were offering price optimization runs like 3 to 4 times a day, we couldn't believe that was true. So that was one of the reasons why we started Atomize, because from day one it was extremely important for us to contribute with real-time price optimization for many reasons, but mainly also because we knew at that point already how important that is in order to maximize yield in general. So that's sort of, and now we're here, and in parallel, as we launched sort of the first version of Atomize 2000, we launched that 2017 sort of. Then in parallel, since we knew that the real-time price optimization engine is a sophisticated beast, we started that project in parallel, and in November now, before Christmas, we finally launched that new generation of optimization engine, and it's truly something. I mean, looking at the industry as a whole, it's something that is completely groundbreaking and will enable things that haven't ever been possible before, which will be discussed also later in this webinar, I believe.
Fantastic. Cool. Thank you, Alexander. Alexandra, what about you?
Yes. So my name is Alexandra Fjellman, and I'm the head of marketing at Atomize. So I'm mainly responsible for all the marketing activities, all the branding, and make sure that we build the Atomize brand globally. And I must say, I mean, it seems like real-time price optimization, it is really exciting, and it's drawing a lot of attention on the market. We can see that only from the number of signups from these 2 webinars today. There's a huge interest from the market. So we are really happy about that. So I hope that you will find some and gain some insights and find this webinar interesting.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean,
Alexandra, you will also raise some if anyone has any questions, they can post it right on YouTube there.
Exactly. Your questions, and I will make sure that these guys answer them for you.
We want hard questions. Come on, guys. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's push Alexander. We want to put Alexander in a very uncomfortable, corner, and make sure,
Let's try. Yeah.
Well, real-time optimization has been seen as a fiction, no, so far, and now it's actually there. And tell us a little bit more about, how technically works this functionality, and a little bit of the advantages of adopting, this approach in revenue.
Yep.
But mainly from the technical point of view, what does it mean? Integration, frequency of the updated, how actually works the process from any reservation is coming into the PMS, the Atomize RMS will get notified. Tell us a little bit, really in detail, how this process works, Alexander.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm going to share a slide here. So let me know when you can.
Yep, we can see it.
Can you see this one?
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's see. Yeah. So what we're looking at here really is a simplified visual of how to interpret sort of the whole real-time sort of to set the price for a hotel. It consists of three steps. The first one is data import. This all RMSs obviously need to do. That means that it's a matter of how often can you retrieve data from the PMS and other data sources. Then the question is, once you have done this, and also I just have to say, the data import piece of it, this is something that is, I mean, nothing new really. This is a matter of most vendors can do this close to real time, or at least a couple of minutes. So that means that you always have the right availability. You are sort of mirroring what's the data in the PMS. But then the question is, right, that by sitting on this data as an RMS provider or revenue management, then you need to process this data or actually do optimization runs based on this data. And here is where the trick comes into play, right? Because including Atomize, all RMS vendors, including Atomize, up until November, sort of last year, have been doing this with some, frequency in terms of maybe 3 to 4 times a day or so, or if it's every third hour or so. And then you can imagine that because it's a lot of data to process, but that becomes it's not granular enough, because then what if you, for instance, have let's take a practical example, that you have a group booking that has is a sort of reserved, that is occupying 20% of your inventory, and all of a sudden, right now, that booking or that group booking is cancelled. And if then, even if the availability changes by looking at the data import from the PMS, you must ensure, right, to have the right prices based on the new availability count. And that then you don't, as a revenue manager, or you should not need to wait for maybe for the next optimization run to see the correct rates based on this new inventory count. But here, the beautiful thing is that you then instantly get new rates, for instance, in that scenario. Or another scenario is that you, let's say that you are in the end of the booking window. Let's say that you are 2 days before arrival date, and you are in a quite fairly dynamic area, your hotel, and reservations are coming in, and they are, if it's a big property, it might be so that these reservations are coming in quite frequently. And then it's not enough to update the prices 3 times or 4 times per day. Then you want to have a new rate based on each reservation that comes in. And this is where what we are launched with the real-time price optimization is really about to be able to, you can throw whatever you want at it, and it starts calculating and processing that, and in less than 50 milliseconds, it's producing a new price point. And this is quite fairly unique. And then we have the last item, which is the data export. Then it's a matter of how often, once you have sort of a new price point, how often can you have your capacity to push that price point back to the PMS or the channel manager or wherever you are pushing this price point. And that's also fairly, that's not the science. It's more like dependent on the ecosystem or your APIs and stuff like that. But here the modern RMSs are all fairly well equipped, I would say. But this is what I'm trying to show here is to try to dissect sort of the process, but the bottleneck for the whole industry has been item number 2, time price optimization, which is we now have cracked, and this is opening up tremendous opportunities for hotels in terms of yield opportunities.
Alexander, what kind of integration you require to run this kind of dynamic price updates? I mean, I see a lot of RMS out there getting, in a struggle situation when they comes to develop the integration with the PMS, of course, which is the most important part of the ecosystem, right? Because you have to collect all the data, and of course, collecting data from PMS should be very easy. I mean, in somehow, but on the other hand, I see a lot of still a lot of trouble out there by developing in a very fast way this integration. There is always some prioritization you have to wait for. And anyway, tell us a little bit, this aspect.
Yeah, so this is also something that we know by in our DNA coming from the ad tech industry, which is important to consider is that when you're doing the integration, it should always be a push on a push basis rather than pull basis. That means that as soon as there is a change in the data in the PMS, the integrations we have in place with our PMS partners, for instance, there is a push for that delta. As soon as there is change, if it's a single reservation, that data is then pushed to us automatically. So this is the sort of also the foundation in terms of the data import. The first box I showed you, how often can you get sort of these transactions by data import compared to if you're going to read from the PMS, for instance, because then you need to have scheduled reads from a PMS, and then you talk about this frequency. I can read the data maybe once an hour or so, but the foundation here for data import is that you need to have a push integration in place to be able for these data variables to be pushed to Atomize rather than us go out and collect them all the time, right?
You know what? Which is the most frequent question I got from hoteliers when we comes to discuss about automation in revenue management? So are the RMS updating also the rates within the PMS?
Yeah. So this is a matter of when it comes to Atomize, we do that. So that's a matter of if it's a one-way or two-way integration. But for real-time price optimization itself, it's not dependent upon if it's a one-way or two-way integration. We always do two-way integration, but because that has to do with the last flow. How often can you export the data? But I mean, in terms of Atomize, and the majority of RMSs in general today, they are pushing. They have two integrations, so they are overwriting the rates in the PMS or the channel manager. I would say. And I would recommend everyone to have that in place.
I have a question there, Alexander. I see a question from YouTube from Domjan Barik. I can't pronounce correctly the name. I'm not sure, but anyway, there is a question asking how many days in future can you forecast the price?
Yeah. So we do 365 days by default, and then we can extend that by another 150 days if there's a special requirement from the hotel. But 365 days is a default. And the beautiful thing with that, to do that also is then you can, it doesn't matter if you are a high, low season hotel, you can always make use of Atomize around the year, right? Even if you are close down the business during low season, you still need to set the prices for the next season. But in terms of real-time price optimization as well, we don't. This is one of those things that we don't look at seasonalities as low season and high season anymore, because if you are dealing with real-time price optimization, you can imagine that we are breaking down every day in less than seconds. That means that every day you have more than 86,000, or you have 86,400 seconds per day. That I would say are the number of seasons we look at on that granular level. So 86,400 seasons per day, and that is what we're dealing with here, which means that during the day, for instance, there might be so that you have a aggregated number of bookings coming in, let's say, for instance, at 10:30 a.m. or before lunch there somewhere. I mean, it goes without saying that if you have a high demand for bookings at certain certain time point a day, then you should have a different price point at that specific time period. And that time period might be a matter of minutes. It might be that this curve of an increased demand where guests seem to have a tendency to book frequently.
More, you know.
Yeah, then you should have higher prices. So this is why also where real-time price optimization becomes so important, because that's why we break it down in 86,400 seasons per day, because then you can actually, in fact, have different price points per each season by second for each room type every day, 1 year ahead. And that is quite phenomenal, rather than you are stuck with that you are only able to have changed these prices on a quite not as dynamic by like 3 to 4 times per day, but you can be really create this over where as the demand shifts across the day as well.
One more question. So it's more related to the automation also in terms of updating the rates on the online distribution channels. So once the hotel get the notification of the new rates, urgent, optimization needed, are those prices pushed automatically without even check them, or there is also an option where the hotelier or the revenue manager can check the rates, approve them, or in case override, maybe they want to change a little bit the value, they feel like it's too high or it's too low. Is there a way they also can do by this option?
Yeah, so this is a matter of, so we are operating in a trust business. That means that no one, I don't think that anyone would start with full automation from day one without knowing have been able to assess the price, the quality of the price recommendations. So how it usually looks is that hotels say that, well, we don't want to go for full automation, so we want to start by reviewing these manually in the beginning. However, the trend is quite constant. I would say that after 2 to 3 months in as a client of Atomize, we have built that trust, and then clients ask us, can we go into full automation? You can imagine that especially if you're dealing with real-time price optimization, where you have a system that has the capacity to assess more than 150 million price opportunities per day, it becomes, I mean, if you trust the system, you can't simply sit and manually approve those. You need to simply go for full automation to maximize yield based on that feature, I would say. And right now we are also, so we launched this in November technically, and now we are running some clients on tests on sort of for real-time price optimization, and those clients have already been running Atomize for quite some time before, and they saw the general uplift. I don't want to make them as, I mean, above 10% that you usually do with the RMS if you haven't been using RMS in the past. But then the phenomenal thing happens when they have switched on the real-time price optimization. They what we can see so far is they do another 6.5 to 7% uplift on top of that. So that is what we're talking about here. So it's almost doubling once more the yield capacity. So it has enormous effects on yield. We can see, and we don't think we think actually that the 6-7% is actually quite low. We think it will increase even more here as we will learn, or the algorithm will learn even more from this new behavior of setting prices so frequently.
Alexander, I see another question. Can you give us feedback?
Yeah, so we have a question here from Ivan. So he's wondering how many hotels we currently support, and also how much, a related question to that, how much data are we actually in support for processing?
Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, how many hotels we support with real-time price optimization? That itself is a very new technology, and we are currently running it with 3 or 4 hotels to ensure that, I mean, technically we know that it works already, but ensure that we can build good business cases for the market, so we can really rely on these figures. Then in terms of data processing, so one of those things which I believe, Enzo, you touched upon here as well, is that it's important for the whole real-time price optimization to work seamlessly. It's a matter of being able to operate in the cloud. And to do so, we are using Amazon Web Services. So we run Atomize is obviously run in the cloud, and but that is giving us the possibility to endless data processing capacity. So that is not the limitation at all. So we there are no limitations simply to the power that we can with in terms of processing data. We just I mean, real-time price optimization is a little bit more expensive than the base product that we have, but it's definitely worth worth that, I would say, in terms of the uplift it provides.
It's like having you on a car with manual speed or automatic speed, So
I would say more of it's a comparison with the car or a rocket ship. So it's this is something completely different. It's going to change the game completely. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the market is evolving so fast, no? But from the traveler point of view, I mean, and I think the way they're looking, finding information, and the way since a long time they are also using, flight bookings, and they can actually recognize this way of booking flight in advance because they can get cheaper price. So, and somehow this culture of dynamic pricing is in the head of the traveler. So
yeah.
There was always this question from receptionist, front desk in the hotel, where, yeah, but how can we sell those dynamic rates and having in a house 100 rooms guests, each of them with different price? Well, I mean, this is the same question they should ask themselves when they book the flight. They're sitting in a flight where there are 300-400 people sitting with different price each other, and that's the truth. I mean, the market is moving in that direction, and actually the hotels are coming a little bit late. So I would say, if we look at the flight, environment, so this is an approach which was there since a long time. So that's the right answer. The hotels should give in their approaching revenue and to us guests in the next coming years. Be more dynamic from any angle, from the price point to the way they distribute themselves, and which actually another important aspect that I see in revenue. Another big challenge is not only the way they dynamic approach the price strategy, but also the way they distribute and balance the availability of the rooms, because the cost impact of selling your inventory to only third-party channel will have an impact in your cost of acquisition, and then it is very important in the same way you are now approaching the way you make your rates dynamic, also the way you distribute availability, correct? What's your point on that?
Yeah, so two things. The first thing is that real-time price optimization in itself doesn't necessarily mean that we change the prices more often. It might be so, but it's not necessarily so. However, what the effect it will definitely get out of it is that the prices that we set are just in time, or they are delivered just when they should be, and they are very timely, precision pricing part of it, the way we can set the price exactly at the right point in time when they should be set, rather than that you set the price that are, 3 hours old. They should have been changed 3 hours ago. That effect has enormous effects on the yielding. The second part, I don't remember right now what you said there, Enzo. The question was about
availability. To manage availability in the same way you do with price, So, and trying to pay attention on the acquisition cost of travel, because this is another part of the revenue, and making sure you make revenue, more than revenue, you make profit, right?
Yes, and this is, I guess, the biggest. Another big future possibility with real-time price optimization that has not been able to discuss even in the past. But for example, what this opens up, you can imagine if you can set the price or calculate the price and set the price in real time, what that opens up for. There are primarily, as we can identify already now, two things that should grab the attention of all hotels in the world. Is the first thing is to have an individualized and personalized price for each guest. That means that as soon as there's guests looking for a hotel night, since we now can process data in real time, we can also then calculate a specific price for a certain guest. Technically it works. Then there are some infrastructural parts that we need to consider here that are not in place yet, such as, for instance, the direct connection with the OTA that we don't have. But technically, that wouldn't be difficult. What then that opens up to is, to answer your question, Enzo, with distribution costs, is actually, and also answers the question to those that are afraid of changing the prices too many times because it just they don't want their prices to fluctuate too much, is that this opens up the possibility to actually start exploring the possibility for dynamic OTA commissions. So rather than changing the price, or for instance, rather than lowering the price point for a certain guest, how cool wouldn't it be to keep the price stable and rather increase the commission for that single guest to the OTAs?
That's a good point.
For that single, and that is what this opens up to as well. And what that means is that by doing that, then we're not talking about having a tactical sort of feature anymore. Then it's highly strategic, because then you can target different segments, guest segments for your hotel. So if you're a high fashion brand that you have as a pricing policy within your brand that you don't want to lower prices 5 days before arrival date, for instance, then what you can do instead is that you can increase the commission to the OTAs for certain segments that you want to address. to promote your inventory for these segments that are in line with your hotel brand. So this is especially for those high fashion brands or 4 or 5 star properties where you don't want to go to the market and need to have discounts because it doesn't look good for your brand, but rather you can increase the commission for your luxury segments, for instance. So this is what I think can be a complete game changer. And this is what this kind of technology opens up for. And this has, as far as I know, in terms of dynamic OTA commissions, has never even been on a visionary slide anywhere where I've looked so far. So this is something that.
So let's push this message to Expedia, Booking.com. So if anyone wants to watch this webinar, guys, we are going to save you for the future. If you decrease your commission, especially when the prices are very cheap in the hotel, that would be much better, right?
Yeah,
I see
exactly.
2 more questions. Alexander, can
Yeah.
you highlight some of them, Alexandra?
Yes, we have a lot of questions here now. So we have one from Isabel, and she wonders if we offer optimization tools, other optimization tools, such as implementing restrictions, MLOS and CTA. So, and also if we are selecting channels which the property wishes to drive traffic to. I think that's a little bit what we're talking about now, that you can actually work on a strategy in which channels you want to drive traffic from. So if we have minimum length of stay, and if we can actually work strategically on which channels we should drive traffic to.
So the short answer right now would be we take minimum length of stay into account in the data and so on, and we will implement minimum length of stay later this year. So goes also for channel. Something we have in our roadmap for this year is channel optimization. That means that we will be able to open and close channels based on net revenue. So we take into account the commission for each channel and optimizing that automatically. So the OTAs will work primarily as a support function. So when you need that firepower, which many times are very, very often, but then you want to open up those channels, and then it's a question of where do you get the highest traction, and then you want to make sure that those channels are open and you close those where there is higher commissions. But that is something we are releasing later this year. So not yet, unfortunately.
Okay,
Yes.
next one from Jenny.
Yes, so Jenny is wondering if they are working with another RMS. Does this system also gives, so does Atomize support group pricing recommendations? And do we work with LRV, last room value, or hurdle rates?
Yeah, so first thing, group pricing model, yes, we support that. So and so that we do. We'll be happy to show that in another session, with including displacement analysis and including sort of ancillary revenue streams and profit margins for those. In terms of last room value, it's we don't support it because we don't believe in it. That's the short answer. In terms of floor prices and stuff like that, we can work with. We don't believe in last room value because it's against the fundamentals of dynamic pricing in terms of maximize revenue.
All right, so we got another one from Ivan, Alexandra.
Yes, so Ivan is wondering here if we have any speed bottlenecks with hotel distribution channels while trying to change the prices in real time.
If we have what? Speed bottlenecks?
If we have any bottlenecks, basically if we have any bottlenecks with hotel distribution channels while trying to change the prices in real time.
Well, the whole ecosystem today, I can show you a slide that explains this a little bit. Let's see if I can do this. Do it like this. So the slide, hopefully you can see this.
Maybe if you can enlarge a little bit the slide.
Is it better? Is this good?
It's very small. If you can enlarge a little bit.
I think run the presentation and just show that slide. Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Better.
Okay, let's do it like this. So what we're looking at here to describe everything in terms of where we are in terms of technology as an industry. This is a slide showing, or matrix showing showing the digitalization index for 14 different sectors. This is from McKinsey & Company. This is 2016 or so, but it's still very, very valid. So what we're looking at here is as you can see here, different sectors. ICT sector, for instance, on top, which is then the most digitalized sector in the world. So that's information, communication, technology sector. What falls into that is mobile technology, broadband, stuff like that, where everything obviously is real time and everything is so that's good, and it's red and it's on top. And then you have different sectors. What's bothering at the first glance here is that hospitality is actually on the bottom of this list. And the reason for this historically has been that the influx of venture capital into the hospitality industry has been too low. This has caused the whole ecosystem not to evolve in the same pace as other industries. However, the positive thing here is that this is about to change, and we can see now that the number of startups that currently are operating in the hospitality industry have never been greater. And when I look at different vendors, I'm just blown away because there are so many alternatives coming up here in terms of different kind of offerings, and there is so much cool tech arriving already that will emerge, will grow and take the hospitality industry up this list. And so why I'm showing you this is because this explains also the ecosystem where we are today. So there are bottlenecks, yes, there are, in terms of providing real-time pricing. That means, which is a different thing from real-time price optimization, which is more of processing the data. But still, if you take a modern PMS, for instance, which is then cloud-based and has fresh APIs, stuff like that, and with a modern RMS and a modern channel manager system and stuff like that, and they are all cloud-based, the whole price process from the point in time where a reservation comes in until the new price is set is a matter of minutes, I would say, the whole cycle. So that means the data import, data processing, and also including data export and to propagate these prices in the channels and stuff like that. It's a matter of minutes. I don't know if that answers the question, but this is going very, very fast now. So everything is going towards real time. We are not completely there yet in terms of the whole loop, but it will definitely end up there fairly soon, I would say, because it needs to. And it's not fiction. That's why I want to show you this slide as well, because this is the reality in other industries, and unfortunately, the hospitality industry has been lagging behind a little bit, but it's catching up. But look at the financial industry, for instance. I mean, there you pay millions of dollars to move the server a couple of inches just to come closer to the heart where the transactions are being made to win certain milliseconds, right? In trade, that is it's going in towards real time, as close as we can to real time overall. And so we're doing good progress in the industry, but I think we have some more work to do.
Yeah, well, Alexandra, I see another one.
Yes, we have a question here from Domyan, and he's wondering how long it takes to integrate with Atomize and what are the steps that need to be, that you need to go through to be fully integrated with Atomize?
As a hotel, it's a matter of hours. From our perspective, it's 48 hours usually we say. However, then unfortunately there are, depending on what PMS the hotel sits on, it can vary. Everything from a couple of hours or 8 hours or so to sometimes unfortunately weeks, because of some PMSs are more legacy and have bureaucratic processes on their end. But in terms of the time it takes to get Atomize up and running, it's a matter of hours. I would usually say 48 hours. It can go faster sometimes even.
Cool. Right. I have a couple of questions from my side, Alexander.
Yeah.
First one, straight. Why, from your point of view, well, there was a research last year I was looking at, made, I think, from Skift, which were showing that only 20% of hotels or 80% of the hotels worldwide are using an RMS. Okay. And second point is, based on my experience and the conversation I had in several years with many revenue managers, I was actually really engaged in this discipline in the past, and I see a lot of revenue managers really relying more on forecast Excel sheet. So I don't understand. And I would like to have your point of view on that. Why do you think revenue managers are still looking to work on Excel file and make their life so complex instead of scale up on technology adoption?
Yeah, the first short answer is that I think the general conception is that software is very expensive. And the reason for this is because that conception was formed somewhere where before the cloud alternatives appeared. But since all these cloud alternatives have appeared, that means also that the costs for running these kind of applications have come down quite significantly, not only to operate them per month, but also especially to integrate them. So as I just said, I mean, to light up an RMS, I mean, five years ago, to say that would take a couple of hours would be a joke, would be considered a joke. But that is the reality now, and that is enabled by, thanks to the cloud, that we can light up things very fast wherever you are on this planet. Which was not possible just 5-10 years ago, because then you needed to send someone down into the basement somewhere and do the integration, a local integration, and on that PMS somewhere. And so that has speeded up the process very fast and brought down the costs of RMS. And then also I think that on top of this, there's people.
Some fear, maybe, of being replaced.
Fear, and then there are people are not aware of that this exists. I mean, many times when we approach smaller hotels, they have been sitting with their Excel spreadsheets for years, and they think we are almost like a religion when we come, right? They're like, wow, it's amazing. They didn't even know that this kind of help was possible to get. So you have the full scale there, and then we have those big brands that obviously have been operating revenue management systems for years, and for them it's not. They know that they would never go back to the Excel spreadsheet. So it's a matter of to see the light and go into the light, and then you don't ever want to go back. I think sort of.
My sentence on that: life is too short to sit in front of an Excel. Come on, guys.
Yeah. I agree. But then, what's important to understand here as well is that Excel is great. I mean, I love the tool as a tool. However, when it comes to set prices for a hotel, Excel spreadsheets or even graphs, to rely on graphs or reports that are looking at is too slow process. especially in a real-time price optimization environment. This is also our message, and we say this all the time to ourselves. I mean, that at every report you need to pull to determine a certain price point should be considered as a failure, because if you have, if the time it takes for you to produce the report during that time period, every second you might have missed a pricing opportunity, or a revenue opportunity. So this is so important to understand, and this is what we're trying to explain also to hotels or revenue managers in general, that we will never replace the strategic elements of revenue management. However, when it comes to tactical revenue management to set the prices, especially now when the technologies, as we're just now launching real-time price optimization, you cannot pull a report and base your prices based on this. I mean, as I said, you need to be able, at least have the capacity to change the prices whenever you want to during the day.
Well, at least, guys, you can try. You have a campaign open, like free trial on Atomize?
No. We used to when we launched Atomize, because we wanted everyone to test Atomize, but then it so that was last 2018 or something.
Maybe we can open a couple of slots for the viewers right now, if two available.
Let's continue to the next point on the agenda.
Actually, we have a question from Raquel. Can you tell us which is this question, Alexandra?
Yeah, sure. So Rachel has a question, and she wonders if we optimize the price for retail bar alone or other products. Yeah, so if we do, I don't know if I understand the question right, but if we optimize pricing for other industries?
Okay, so I would say no. Right now we are laser focused on hotels, but it's always tempting to look at this at other industries, and we get a lot of requests about other industries. Some are quite close by and to hospitality, but some are quite far away. But it's what's interesting, I think, is the fact that these requests come in, because revenue management and dynamic pricing especially is so, as we said many times here, is not specifically for hotels. It's the whole world is going towards real-time price or dynamic pricing, we believe. And but Atomize as a company, we are solely focused on hotels. Right, I think
now, Rachel, she specified her question here. What she meant was, for example, like if we let loyalty or advanced purchase rates, if we take that into consideration, or doing dynamic pricing for that kind of products.
Yeah, we do. We include that as well. So it depends on the hotel. So we don't do it currently. We don't have a client that wants. So the way it works simply is that if you have a loyalty program, for instance, and you want to have price points based on loyalty, how it usually in practice works is that we have a rate that we optimize in real time. Then you have a derived rate code that is, let's say, for instance, minus 20% discount on the base rate. So it always follows the dynamic rate. So if the question is that if you want to have a loyalty program rate, for instance, that is completely dynamic of the base rate, we haven't done it so far, but I would be more than happy to discuss how to make it work, because it's a matter of just tailor make it for this specific purpose, the technology we have. So it's a matter of the commercial aspects of how you want it to work.
Yeah.
Next one, Alexandra.
Yes, so we have a question from Jenny here. She also wonders if we can talk a little bit more about how our pricing algorithm is working, and if it how it takes the comp set data into consideration. Is this just a noise, or how is it actually implemented in the algorithm?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we get this question quite a lot, and we even wrote a piece on this topic some weeks ago because
you have on a blog this piece.
Yeah, we can send it out. Absolutely.
Can you post the link here, Alexandra? On a
Yeah.
comment, maybe? Yeah.
So yes, start with yes. We consider competitive set comp set data. What's important to understand is that what hotels are a little bit afraid of, or the question we get is like, what happens if all my whole comp set sort of lowers their rate or drop the rate for some reason? Will I follow them down in the spiral sort of? And the answer is no. So there are so many things you can retrieve just by looking at the comp set pricings right now. And one of them is obviously that, so how it works is that we calculate the optimal price point right now in real time. And then we assessing that performance based on that rate that the algorithm believes is optimal right now, how it sits in the comp set. If it's the lowest, if it's the highest, if it's somewhere in the middle. And then the algorithm usually wants to test different price points in the comp set also to make so it has a certain performance for a certain price point. And then it wants to, for instance, what happens if we just put the rate below a certain competitor? What will happen with the performance to assess that? And then it might be so that, well, then if we get a desired effect, which means that we can get in untapped demand by doing so with a desired continuous performance, then it might be so that this is a better price point to stay with. But if not, it will raise the price again and maybe even try a higher price point for a couple of hours to see how that performs then. But so we are not considering the comp set to sort of to follow the comp set. It's more of a final assessment of the algorithm of what we believe is the optimal price point, and then it automatically sort of test different price points and assess the performance based on this in the comp set. What's interesting here is that we also then collect the data over time for your competitors. So by doing so, the algorithm can then sort of map out the pricing strategies for your competitors, and the algorithm learns the pricing strategies from your competitors. And by knowing the pricing strategies for your competitors is obviously very, very important, and it's a very nice information when planning for the sort of price strategy for your hotel.
There was also a second part of the question from Jenny, Alexandra.
Yes. So if you're a newly open hotel, how long time of history? I mean, how much history, data history, would you need for the system to work properly?
We optimally we would like to see 1 year data, but we have many hotels that start with 3 years data. 3 months of data, historical data. Those that have just switched to a new PMS, for instance. But then we have the capacity as well to also retrieve or import data from an old PMS. Sometimes the new PMS don't want to do that, but we can actually do that just from a revenue management perspective to map out sort of what the future most probably will look like. So we can have that capacity as well. But 3 months of historical data, and if that's solely for the algorithm to learn somewhat from those three months. It goes without saying, with those 3 months, the system, however, doesn't know anything about the future seasonalities of like, is it a sort of a peak season or low season and stuff like that. So then we need to help it and put something in that is called priors to help the algorithm to know sort of what kind of part of the year is this is a low season, high season, stuff like that. But yeah.
I see Jenny is in fire. She's really in the topics. Hi, Jenny.
I love the engagement.
Great. We want the question. Keep going.
So her follow-up question here is it possible to change the price to give lower, higher member rates following demand on specific dates? And she also wonders if it's possible to close OTAs during high demand seasons.
First one is yes, we can do that. The second one regarding OTAs, that goes back to what we discussed about channel optimization, something we release later this year, where we simply will automatically either suggest, or if you set the mode into full automation, we will automatically open and close channels based on this, and doing the revenue analysis on the fly, so to speak, to if it makes sense to have the channel open or if it should be closed. Nothing we have in place already, but it's coming. We are a fairly young company, so it's coming, definitely.
So yes, here's another question. I love that people are so engaged. So Ivan is wondering if we can give an estimate on how much it would cost to have Atomize for a hotel with approximately 200 rooms.
Of course we can. You can just reach out to me, Ivan.
Free. No, you said it's free, right?
Exactly. With the ROI in consideration, it's actually we're giving away money here. So yeah. No, but of course, so we can calculate that. We can reach out to us, Ivan. It would be an honor.
And there's also another question here. So from Isabel.
Yeah, so this is also in addition to Jenny's previous question. For example, if a concert is released, we need to take a quick action and raise our prices. How will Atomize make sure and be quick enough to follow the trend of the market? So this is in relation to events being announced.
Yeah, it's a good question. Here's an example where you need to have real-time price optimization, because if there is a concert announced of some kind, you want to make sure that your pricing is not lagging behind, right? In terms of if you look at the RMS, into the RMS, and make sure that the rates you're looking at are not that you need to sit and wait for the next optimization run. So this is one of the benefits with the real-time price optimization, that what you're looking at are real-time, and these prices will even change as you're sitting in the interface during such a session as a concert is announced. The way we detect it is we don't believe in event calendars for many reasons. We have written a piece of that as well, why that is the reason. But primarily because if you have an event calendar, you do a lot of guesstimates. How many are coming to this event, and it boils down to how with that, how many of those that are coming to the event will actually need a hotel night, and even if you have that number, how many of those that need a hotel night how will that affect my hotel, and then to boil that down to price point, which is a matter of €1, €2 up down. It's impossible to do. It's a guesstimate. So the way we have solved that is that we use a JavaScript that we put into the booking engine to detect deviate behavior in terms of search pressure dates for future arrival dates. So if there is a concert announced in the middle of the night, for instance, if it's an American artist coming to Europe or the opposite, then this JavaScript is detecting search pressure, even if there are no reservations coming into the PMS yet. We can see that there are starting to be like a seismograph prior to an earthquake, that there are some spikes, and what that then immediately, especially with real-time price optimization, the Atomize prices will start to increase long before your competitors have even started to do so, safeguarding you from selling out your inventory too cheap, too early.
Right. So I don't see any other question, right? Wow.
You're overdue in time. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Well, if there are no other questions, I have the last one. What's next? I mean, in Atomize, we see this big improvement, really, of this dynamic price, real-time pricing. this means that Atomize want to stay a step ahead, of the competition. So in somehow someone now is coming on the same feature, and you have to think already at the next step. So what is going to be?
Yeah, I think that what everyone is doing right now in the revenue management vendor space, everyone's talking about profit optimization, how to optimize towards profit rather than revenue. That's one thing, and we're obviously looking at that as well. We have started that work. That's important. That means that we also need to consider sort of the over average guest spend for hotel guests. Take that into consideration, but also the commissions levels for the different channels and stuff like that. So, but also what comes into the profit piece of it is also pure costs of running the hotel, like cleaning, stuff like that, needs to be considered to be able to do a proper profit optimization. But we are working on that. So modeling out those kind of costs is fairly simple. So it's coming quite soon. I think that's not unique for Atomize. I think everyone is looking at that. But I think that I have to go back to the real-time price optimization piece of it. That is unique. It's something that it should have arrived for years ago to the hotel industry. And I think I was quite amazed when we entered this industry that no one was talking even about it, and I understand now why, because it's fairly complicated to pull it off. It's not like you just it's a good idea, let's copy that idea, because it requires some fairly sophisticated technology to pull it off, and so that's why. But it's foundation for the next step in revenue management, and which is the personalized pricing, and as I said, dynamic OTA commission, stuff like that. That's, for me, truly, I mean, that is game-changing things that open up right now. But on top of that, or on side of that, we're doing all the regular stuff that I guess everyone wants to do in terms of total profit management.
Sure. Right. So at this point, I think we ended, right?
Yeah.
I could stay here longer, but I think people had enough information. And would you mind, Alexandra, to quickly recap which are the contacts to how the people can get in touch with Atomize through your website, email, how they can do that?
Absolutely. So if you are interested in knowing more, and if you want your own session or an online demo, is really good case, because every hotels and properties are different. So if you want a personalized demo, you can book one on atomize.com. Just go to book a demo. I think that's the easiest way to come in contact with us, or any marketing related questions, you can contact me, and we also have the contact details on the website.
Are you going to be in some event, trade show coming soon? You want to announce so you can invite people to join you at the event?
Yes, we are definitely on ITB, of course. We have a big stand there in hall 7.1B. I think our number is stand 104. So if you want to book a meeting with us, you can also send a meeting request through our website.
Okay. We also come to London next week, the Opportunity 2020. You and I, Alexandra. Yeah, at Emirates Stadium.
So you're everywhere, guys.
Yeah.
Real-time dynamic pricing. You have to be, you got to keep on top of that, right? So you have to be dynamic too.
Exactly.
Very true.
Cool. Right. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good conversation. And
really
for anyone want to connect again, guys, we are going to repeat the session again this afternoon at 2:00 Central European time.
Yeah.
So we may get some more questions. If you still want to have some more questions for Alexander, you can connect with us today again, and we will be more than happy to answer all and provide all the clarification. Thank you again, Alexander.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alexandra,
take care.
Thanks.
I'll see you later. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.